What's up guys, Venom RB here. So today we're going to be talking about the McLaren F1 event, the Hyundai Mobility Adventure game, and then the NASCAR event. Now a couple days ago I made a video called Why Licensing Cars Won't Work on Roblox, and several people in the comments said or brought up at least one of these events, and this was their evidence for why it could work. And today we're going to be talking about those, and I'm going to be explaining why actually it still won't work. So this is kind of like a part 2 to that video. Therefore, if you have not seen that video, I recommend you watch that first, and that will be linked in the description below. Without further ado, let's get into this one. Alright, so first we're going to be talking about the NASCAR event, which was, they had two games, their NASCAR Speed Hub, and then they had the Jailbreak NASCAR collaboration thing. So firstly, this was a partnership between Roblox and NASCAR to celebrate 75 years of NASCAR. And the reason this has nothing to do with licensing is it's for promotion. It's just for promotion of NASCAR in itself. Obviously, NASCAR is not necessarily like Ferrari or Lamborghini, which is a car company. They're a racing organization, I suppose you could call them, right? So it's just for promotion for the sport. Now, something people are going to bring up is, well, Jailbreak was involved. And yeah, they were involved because they were also involved with the partnership in Roblox. And the other game that NASCAR was with, or what was in the event, was officially owned by the NASCAR group and the official NASCAR Roblox account. So once more, all for promotion. If you want further things on that, here's a little quote from the managing director of gaming and esports at NASCAR, and it says, "We've really begun to focus on expanding NASCAR's presence in the metaverse and engaging with the virtual community in unique and creative ways. Roblox is one of the most passionate communities out there, so when we began collaborating with Jailbreak and its development team, Venom, it only made sense to add an element of customization to the race car to get players involved and excited for this upcoming drop." That last bit's not that relevant because that's them talking about custom skins they were adding for the event at that time to kind of just build up some hype. What we're really looking at is the first bit where they're trying to expand NASCAR's virtual presence. It's promotion. There's nothing about licensing involved in that particular event. So hopefully that clarifies that part. Now let's move on to the McLaren event, which is the one people bring up by far the most. Alright, so now let's talk about McLaren and their F1 event. So this was a sponsored event by McLaren on Roblox to promote the McLaren F1 team and their new MCL36 F1 car. What people don't realize, I think, about McLaren is that there's McLaren Automotive, and then there's McLaren Racing, and then there's even another McLaren, and all three of those are owned by McLaren Group Ltd. And what that is, I believe it's Ltd. What that is the main company over the three. So McLaren Automotive, who make the supercars such as the 720S, the 600LT, right? It's not the same as the company McLaren Racing, which owns their F1 team, their Extreme E team, and some of their other teams, right? Those are two different companies under one company. So you got to remember that just because the McLaren F1 team was on Roblox does not mean that McLaren Automotive was even involved in any way. So that kind of debunks the theory of, well, since McLaren F1 was in there, or the McLaren F1 team, that means, you know, all their supercars are suddenly allowed. It does not, because those are two different companies. Another thing people bring up when they talk about it is, well, Ultimate Driving, Driver World, and Jailbreak, you know, they all had the F1 car. And once more, that's just because they partnered with McLaren to do so, and they just partnered with McLaren Racing. You know, they do not have anything to do with McLaren Automotive. So that kind of debunks that theory of, well, since, you know, the F1 car owned by McLaren's, they're obviously supercars are allowed too. They're owned by the same group, but they are two different companies. I hope that makes sense. I've also seen people mention that since, well, the McLaren Racing F1 team was on Roblox, obviously McLaren Automotive must have seen that and been inspired, or at least, you know, seen it and been like, oh, well, there's a large player base, we should do the same thing. And I've seen people talking about that as if it actually happened, and that's why the cars are allowed on the platform. For one, that never happened, and two, I doubt that ever will happen. It's been almost 2 years since that McLaren event, so just the odds of that happening are quite small, and it did never happen, so that is not a reason to think that a 720S is allowed on Roblox. Once more, the McLaren thing is kind of really confusing, but TLDR, McLaren Automotive, McLaren Racing, two different things, similar names. Anyways, let's move on to Hyundai. And finally, Hyundai and their game Hyundai Mobility Adventure. Now, Hyundai is kind of the most interesting of the three and different in the fact that it doesn't seem to be a direct partnership or event with Roblox. I have no idea if Hyundai reached out to Roblox to ask permission. I suppose you wouldn't really need to do that. So Either way, it does not really matter. It does not appear to be a direct sponsored event or partnership with Roblox itself. However, it is a game developed by a group of Roblox developers who I guess work with or are partnered with or work for Hyundai Motor Company. Somehow they work for them and they develop Hyundai Motor Company's game. Now, like the other two, the main point of this game is still promotion. Here's a nice little quote from Thomas Schkamera, Global CMO, Executive Vice President, and Head of the Customer Experience Division at Hyundai Motor Company. And I'll just read the first bit. He said, "To build innovative relationships with young people, we will strengthen our virtual customer experience content for familiarizing them with Hyundai Motors' new vehicles and future mobility solutions on Hyundai Mobility Adventure, one of our next generation CX platforms." Basically, what that means is familiarizing young people, children play Roblox, and so it's just a bunch of promotion. So now let's talk about why this game still means nothing for licensing, even though people like to think it does. So first up, this is Hyundai's own game. Why would they need to license their own cars when they own their own cars? If they had Ferraris in this game, they would have to license them. If they had Ferraris in this game, that would be a great sign for licensing, but they don't. They just have Hyundais, and they are Hyundai, therefore there's no problems there because they can use their own cars for whatever they want without any restrictions because of their own cars. Hopefully I don't have to explain that again. Secondly, just because they have their own Roblox game with cars or with Hyundais does not mean every other Roblox driving game gets to use Hyundais, or any other Roblox game for that matter, because they aren't Hyundai and they don't own Hyundais. I don't understand what's so complicated about this one, but I still have to talk about it. If you don't own Hyundai, you cannot use Hyundai in your game. Hyundai is Hyundai, so they can use Hyundai in their game. This is a mouthful and this is very entertaining to say, but I hope this makes sense. So in conclusion, NASCAR doesn't have anything to do with licensing Ferraris or any other street car, unfortunately. It just really doesn't. McLaren Automotive and McLaren Racing are two entirely different things, so just because a McLaren F1 car was in a certain game does not mean a 720S can be in that game anymore or any less than it did if the F1 car was not there. And if you are Hyundai and you own Hyundai, you may use Hyundais in your own game. That about concludes it. Thank you all for watching. If you have anything else you'd like to add, let me know down in the comments, and I will see you all in the next one. Venom out.